everyone, this is Karen.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Shane.
Today we're looking at part 2 of A Walk on the High Line.
New York City's highest park.
And the vocabulary words are multiple.
Multiple.
Joanna made multiple copies of the report.
District.
District.
Toronto's entertainment district has some of the city's best restaurants.
Historic.
Historic.
A statue marks the location where a historic event took place many years ago.
Ideal.
Ideal.
We found an ideal spot to have a picnic.
Landmark.
Landmark.
Big Ben is one of London's most famous landmarks. So we're still talking about, the High Line and how it was transformed into a beautiful park.
Yeah, and it's a great way to go and explore New York City.
That's right.
Because you can kind of go up and above and then walk around and see lots of really cool things.
Yeah, that's
kind of like a bird's eye view. So you can see like the meatpacking district, which is quite famous. What else can you see?
I think there's also like art and fashion and business centers. And you can also see the river too.
Right. Oh, and there's like Chelsea Market.
The birthplace of Oreo cookies.
Yeah, that's a really famous thing. And then by the end, you can get to Mercado, like the Little Spain. It's like a Spanish area where you can get some really cool Spanish food, really yummy stuff to eat.
Wow.
So it sounds like a really cool way to explore, right? And the beauty around you, and you get to see all of the city.
It was such a wonderful idea of how they transformed the High Line to now the beautiful park.
Yeah, I really love when they do that, kind of kind of a renaissance of an area when it starts to lose its original function or purpose, and then they repurpose it into something beautiful and natural. I think that's really cool.
I know. Okay, well, you guys learn more about this beautiful park.
Enjoy.
A Walk on the High Line, New York City's highest park.
So what's the best way to spend a day in New York City's highest park? The High Line has multiple entrances, but many people begin at the park's southern end. The trail here winds its way through the meatpacking district, a historic meat processing area that's now an art, fashion, and business center, and eventually takes you to a lovely river scene.
Today's lesson is called A Walk on the High Line, New York City's highest park. Part 2. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I'm Mike. And yes, we're learning about New York City's highest and probably most unusual park. This was originally an elevated railway that carried trains and goods right through the middle of Manhattan, through the middle of New York City. But since 2009, the city has been turning it into a park. Yes, a park that is above the streets. And there people today can walk for 1.5 miles, see art exhibits, eat delicious food at food stands, and of course see a lot of beautiful gardens and trees and stuff like that. Yeah, in a park above the city streets. So we begin today's article by a question. With a question, it says, so what's the best way to spend a day in New York City's highest park? If you're like me and you've never been to the High Line, what would be some good advice for how to enjoy it if you're going there for the first time?
Well, I've got an answer for you.
All right.
I got an answer there for you, Mike. The High Line has multiple entrances. There are many different ways you can get in there, but many people begin at the park's southern end.
Okay.
Not the northern end. You want to go to the southern end.
Interesting. All right. So you can enter it from many different places. Of course, these are probably the old train stations along the old railway. That's why we see that adjective, multiple entrances. An entrance is a way in, right? The opposite would be an exit, a way out. Multiple just means many, more than one. We could say the High Line has many entrances, all right? We're just using this word multiple, but it basically means the same as many.
Or a lot.
Or a lot, more than one. For example, Joanna made multiple copies of the report. She didn't just write one and keep it safe. No, she made lots of copies or many copies so that she would have more.
Okay, now the trail here
from the southern end.
Is the southern end.
Okay.
Yeah, the southern end, not the northern end.
No.
The southern end.
Yeah.
The trail here winds its way through the meat packing district, a historic meat processing area that's now an art, fashion, and business center, and eventually takes you to a lovely river scene. So when we're talking about a district, we're talking about a neighborhood or a part of a city that's got its own defining characteristic. Hey, what do they do in that part of the city? Meatpacking. It's the meatpacking district. For example, Toronto's entertainment district has some of the city's best restaurants. Also, there's entertainment.
Oh, okay. So we might have a financial district with all the offices of banks and stuff like that, an entertainment, a shopping district with many malls and stores, things like that. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a different part of a major city. And we also talked about this being a historic area or district of New York. Something that's historic, this adjective just means it's important to history, all right? So it's old, obviously, but it's not something that just was a common thing in the past, or we don't know who owned it or who lived there or something. No, we do know because there's someone important or some important events or something like that happened to it. Historians will study it. If it's something historic, we might find it in a museum or something like that. It's important to history. For example, a statue marks the location where a historic event took place many years ago. Someone was born there, or some important treaty was signed, or a famous battle took place, or something like that. Something that was important to history. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with our tour of the High Line from the southern end. Not the northern.
The southern end.
Southern end.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。High Line 起初是一条高架铁道，那么后来在废弃之后呢，逐渐被发展成高架铁道公园。那么 Mike 老师在开场时，他用到 originally 来表达起初、原来、起先。好，这个字是拼作 originally，originally。好，那我们今天课文就是来帮大家推荐逛高架铁道公园的行程咯。好，这个公园呢，它有好几个入口，许多人会从公园的南端开始。那这条路线蜿蜒的穿过肉品加工区，而这个加工区历史悠久，现在呢，则是艺术、时尚和商务中心。我们这边来看3个单字 ，multiple， 它是形容词，形容多个的、多种的、许多的，其实意思就跟 many 差不多。再来看到 district， 它是名词，表示行政区或者是某个特色区域。像文中写到这个 meat packing district， 表示肉品加工区。那我们也可以说 financial district， 金融区 ，entertainment district， 娱乐区 ，shopping district， 购物区等等。Charles 老师刚刚说到这些区域呢，有自己明确的特色特征。这时候老师用到 defining 这个形容词，它其实是 define 的现在分词，用来当形容词去形容它是明确的、界定的或是决定性的。再来看下一个单字 historic。Historic 是形容词来形容具有历史意义的、历史性的。好，接华课文中。
A walk on the High Line, New York City's highest park.
Further on, you'll find Chelsea Market, the birthplace of the Oreo cookie, and an ideal spot to stop for lunch. After that, the tracks run past areas thick with plants where you may see local birds. You'll also spot one of the most famous landmarks in the city, the Empire State Building, as well as art pieces that vary throughout the year.
Okay, so we've started at the southern end there. We've moved along the meatpacking district there. And we've got a lovely view of the river. And you know what? Further on, you'll find Chelsea Market, the birthplace of the Oreo cookie, and an ideal spot to stop for lunch, though you won't have to sit there and eat like a bag full of Oreos or anything like that. There are nice restaurants where you can eat things other than Oreo cookies. Yes, a lunch of Oreo cookies probably would not be ideal. Anyways, if something is ideal, though, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's close. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not exactly right, but it's really close. It's super awesome. It's great. For example, we have found an ideal spot to have a picnic. This is a super great place to have a picnic. Is it the best place ever? No. But boy, is it close. It's almost heaven.
All right, so as we're walking along the High Line from the south, we might notice a slight change. Maybe the southern end has more of those art exhibits or food stands. But then as we continue on, it says after that, the tracks run past areas thick with plants where you may see local birds. So it sounds like it gets a little bit more wild as we move away from the Chelsea Market and meatpacking district areas. A few bigger plants and trees. Maybe we hear more birds. And also, if we look through those trees, we will see a very famous New York City site. It says you'll also spot one of the most famous landmarks in the city, the Empire State Building, as well as art pieces that vary throughout the year. Wow, very cool. So we have nature around us. If we look between the buildings, we'll see that famous landmark, the Empire State Building, you know, the one that King Kong was hanging off of in those old movies, originally the tallest building in New York City, and of course more art pieces or art exhibits. What is a landmark? Well, this word means basically a famous site, something that you would look at maybe in a postcard, or if you go to a country or a city, you'll definitely want to see that. It kind of marks that place. If you see it, you think of this place. The Eiffel Tower is the landmark of Paris. Taipei 101 for Taipei. Big Ben, that big clock tower in London, that is definitely a landmark, and also the subject of our sentence. Big Ben is one of London's most famous landmarks. Not all landmarks are made by people. We can have natural ones too, large mountains or things like that. But basically a very famous place that is very connected to a certain place, and tourists will definitely want to check it out.
There you have it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. But when we come back, we'll have more on the High Line.
好，我们继续往前走，来到 Chelsea Market 雀儿喜市场，它是 Oreo 饼干的发源地哦。那这个地方也是吃午餐的理想地点，那边有各种的料理，是个美食天堂哦。好，那么接着铁轨呢就会穿过布满植物的区域，在那边呢你可能会看到当地的鸟类，还可以看到帝国大厦，它是纽约市其中一个最著名的地标。那我们先来看单字 ideal。ideal 它是形容词，形容理想的、完美的。Java 在解释单字时有用到 awesome 这个字 ，awesome， awesome 是形容令人赞叹的、非常棒的。下一个单字 landmark 它表示地标或是里程碑。那这边还有两个重点，第一个重点是 be thick with 加上名词，可以表达密布着什么的、充满着什么的，像是The air is thick with the smell of barbecue. 哇，空中弥漫着烤肉味，闻到都饿了。第二个重点 where 当关系副词的时候，就相当于介系词加上 which， 用来引导形容词子句去修饰跟地点相关的先行词。好，当这个先行词它是明确地点时，我们要用非限定用法 where 的前面必须加逗号。那这时候这个关系子句的功能就是对先行词做补充说明。举例来说 We are planning a trip to Osaka, where the music festival will be held. 我们正在规划要去大阪玩，音乐会呢会在那边举行。那么大阪是明确的地点，我们就不用限定范围，所以记得用逗号把后面这个关系子句做补充说明的部分把它隔开来咯。好，接回到课文中。
A walk on the High Line, New York City's highest park.
By the time you reach the northern end of the park, you'll likely have an appetite again, but luckily you'll be right by the Mercado Little Spain. Grab a few Spanish treats to snack on before checking out the modern buildings in Hudson Yards, or climb back up into the green wonderland above and explore the High Line again. Feel the pulse of New York as you walk along this once vital transportation artery.
Okay, so remember, we're at the park there, High Line Park, And we started at the southern end. That's where you start your trip there. Now, by the time you reach the northern end of the park, you'll likely have an appetite again, but luckily, you'll be right by the Mercado Little Spain. So, Mercado means market, Market Little Spain. So, you'll be able to grab a few Spanish snacks there.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, it says grab a few Spanish treats to snack on before checking out the modern buildings in Hudson Yards. So the food that you're grabbing there, these treats that you'll snack on, you're probably walking and eating as you continue along the High Line. You get up to the Hudson Yards, so you can stop there, or it says climb back up into the green wonderland above and explore the High Line again. So obviously the Spanish Market, it's down on the ground level, right? You have to get back down to street level, buy your snack, you can stop there and take the subway back to your hotel, or get back up on the High Line and enjoy this green wonderland above. This park that's right there above the city. And it's a great place to feel the energy, or
Pulse.
Feel the pulse.
Feel the pulse of New York as you walk along this once vital transportation artery. Yeah, at one point it was important for transportation.
It was a train line.
Now it's important culturally, though. Very important. Anyways, folks, that's it for our article. And now it's time for us to ask and then answer the what do you think question. Mike, can you think of any public parks or spaces in other countries that are similar to the High Line?
Oh, gosh. Well, the High Line reminds me of a place I don't know the name of. It reminds me of that old river that goes through Seoul, South Korea. I never went there. When I went to Korea, it was the middle of winter. But during the summertime, there's this old river. I don't know the name, but it used to be very polluted and dirty, and nobody went there. But since, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, like the High Line, the city's brought it back to life. Now it's a tourist attraction. People go there and sit by the water in the summer. It's clean and wonderful. So it's kind of like that. It's a wonderful time, or a wonderful story, I should say, of a city taking something that was really kind of forgotten and, kind of dirty and not a nice thing, and turned it into a wonderful thing for tourists and locals.
Sounds good to me. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break and to say bye-bye.
Take care.
好，我们一开始是从公园的南端开始逛，那么等逛到公园的北端时，可能肚子又饿了。幸好啊，这边附近有西班牙美食广场。课文就写到说，在去看哈德逊城市广场的现代建筑之前，先找一些西班牙小点来当点心吃吧。好，这边有3个重点。第一个 snack 在这边当动词来表达吃点心、吃零食，那它是不及物动词，后面我们可以接介系词 on。例如 Bob loves snacking on popcorn。 Bob 喜欢吃爆米花当点心。第二个重点 before 在引导副词子句时，如果它的主词跟主要子句的主词相同的话，就可以省略，然后再把动词改成动词 ing。 我们用句型来看比较清楚。本来是 before 主词加动词，逗号主词加动词，那么前后主词一样的话，我们就把 before 后面那个主词省略，再把动词改 ing 形式，就会变成 before 动词 ing 逗号主词加动词，或者是原本是主词加动词 before 主词加动词，就可以简化成主词加动词 before 动词 ing。 例如Melissa took a hot bath before she went to bed. Melissa 在睡觉之前泡了热水澡。那这句呢，可以简化成 Melissa took a hot bath before going to bed. 好，第3个重点，偏语动词 check out 是当及物用，可以表达说看一看、瞧一瞧，去看一下某个东西。像是 Let's check out the new department store. 我们去看看那一间新的百货公司吧。 好，那么看了这2天的课文，我们可以了解到高架铁道公园曾经是很重要的交通要道。那么作者建议我们在这边漫步的时候，好好感受一下纽约的脉动。好，文中这是用到 pulse 来表达这个脉搏、脉动的意思。那么还有 artery。artery 这个字可以指动脉，也可以用来表达铁路、公路等等的这个干线或是要道。好，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
It's cold here in Alaska. Thank goodness I have my igloo to keep me warm. Igloos are made of snow, so they don't look like they can keep people warm, but they actually do a great job. A well-made igloo can increase the inside temperature 40 degrees above the outside temperature. The walls of the igloo block out the wind. Freezing winds can make the air feel much colder. The Inuit invented igloos hundreds of years ago. Most people believe the Inuit lived in igloos all the time. Actually, igloos were used mainly by hunters. Hunters stayed in igloos while they hunted for seals. To build an igloo, you need the right kind of snow. The soft, powdery kind isn't ideal. It can't be packed tightly enough to build an igloo. Now, it looks like the snow conditions are pretty good. If you want, I could show you how to build your own igloo.
Here is more information.
Frozen. The lake here in winter is always frozen. Dome. The building is famous for its special dome. Shape. The cake's shape is of a heart. Build. My grandfather wants to build a house made from wood. Building. The post office is next to a tall building. Roof. The roof of the cute little house is red. Hole. There is a hole in the wall next to the door. Block. They used blocks of stone to build a strong wall. Temperature. Temperatures suddenly dropped last week. Tunnel. The train went through many tunnels. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot. We'll catch you later.
See you next time.